Hey everyone, in this video I'll show you how to make these two transitions in alightmotion. But if you're a complete beginner to alightmotion, I suggest you to watch this video first. After that, if you watch this, it will be very easy to understand. So let's get started. So here in alightmotion I have added 4 images between which I'm going to add those transitions. Now I'll select the first layer and click on add effects. Inside distortion and warp you can find tiles effect. Add that to the clip. This effect will help us to mirror the edges which is needed for the transition. And if you have black bars on your video, make sure you get rid of them by increasing the crop. They look very bad in these transitions. Now we have to add motion blur effect, so go inside blur and add the motion blur effect. After adding motion blur, you can adjust the amount of blur from here. I usually keep it around 0.2, but you can adjust it according to your needs. Now copy these two effects and paste it in all the other clips. Usually these two effects are required if you are making transitions, so I just add them in the beginning and copy paste it in all the other clips. To make the first transition, select the first layer and add an effect called pinch and bulge. You can find it inside distortion and warp. Open the settings of the effect and here select strength. In the center, add a keyframe and change the value to 0. If the value is 0, that means nothing is going to happen to the layer. Now move to the right and add one more keyframe. Here you have to decrease the strength to -1. Now hold the keyframe and keep it at the end. This will give us a pinch effect when moving from the center to the right. Now increase the radius to around 0.9 because we want the pinch effect in a bigger area. Now again select strength and make sure your playhead is between the two keyframes. Now select the graph editor and here enable overshoot. By using this kind of graph, we can actually increase the strength then decrease it. But if you use the normal graph, here the strength will just decrease. So enable overshoot. Now here if you take the line out of the box, you will see a bulge effect. Then when the curve is going up, you will get the pinch effect. So take your time to adjust the graph and make sure it is looking something similar to mine. Now select the second layer and go to effects. Here inside distortion and warp you can find circular ripple effect. Add that to the layer. Now open the settings of the effect and here change the frequency to 1. This will decrease the number of waves which we are getting. So it will kind of look like a pinch effect. Now select strength and increase it to around 0.25. After that select radius and I am increasing it to around 0.5, but you have to adjust it according to your video. Now select strength again and add a keyframe at the beginning and add one more keyframe at the center. Here change the strength to 0. Now come between the two keyframes and select the graph editor. Here disable overshoot and make this type of graph. So we will get a transition like this. Now we only have to add a simple zoom transition, and if you have already watched my alightmotion basics video, then you know it, so you can skip this part. But still I'll explain it quickly. So select the first layer and select move and transform. Here add a keyframe of size at the center. Add one more keyframe here and here you have to increase the size. Now hold this keyframe and keep it at the end of the layer. Now select the graph editor and add this type of graph. So by doing this you will get a simple zoom animation. Now select the second layer and here select move and transform. Now add a keyframe of size at the center. Add one more keyframe here and here you have to decrease the size. Now keep this keyframe at the beginning and add this type of graph, which is actually opposite of the first one. So this is how our effect will look, and you can leave it like this if you want, but I'm going to adjust the graphs a little more. For the second transition, I'm going to use the last two images. So here select the first layer and add an effect called Swirl, which you can find inside distortion and warp. And forgive me if I'm not pronouncing the effect's name right. This effect twisted the video and my tongue at the same time. Anyways, here select strength and change it to 0. Then add a keyframe here at the center. Now add one more keyframe at the right side, and here you have to increase the strength. I'm increasing it to around 0.15. Now give that keyframe at the end and add this graph between the two keyframes. Now we have to increase the radius of this swirl effect. So select radius and increase it to around 0.5. Now select the second layer and add the same swirl effect, which you can find inside distortion and warp. Now here select strength and change it to 0 and add a keyframe at the center. Add one more keyframe at the left side, and here you have to decrease the strength. In the previous layer we have increased the strength, and in this layer you have to decrease it. Make sure you don't forget that because it is very important. Now between the two keyframes we have to add the opposite graph, which will be this one. Now let's increase the radius as we have done in the previous one. I actually forgot what was the radius in the previous layer, so let me just check. So it is 0.44. In this layer we will keep the same radius. So this is how our effect will look. Now let's add a RGB split. So select the first layer and go to effects. Inside color and light you can find RGB split. Add the effect to the clip. Now here this effect is very simple. All you have to do is increase the strength, decrease it to 0 first. Then add a keyframe at the center. Now increase the strength and add a keyframe here at the right side. Now hold the keyframe and keep it at the end of the layer, and that's it. Do the same thing with the other layer. So select the layer and add the same effect. Now here decrease the strength to 0 and add a keyframe at the center. Now move to the left side and here increase the strength and keep this keyframe at the beginning of the video. And this is how the RGB split will look. We also have to add the same zoom transition which we have added in the previous transition. So select the first clip and select move and transform. Now add a keyframe of size at the center. Now add one more keyframe at the right side, and here you have to increase the size. Now keep this keyframe at the end and add this graph between the keyframes. Now select the second layer and click on move and transform. Here add a keyframe at the center of size. Now add one more keyframe at the left side. Here you have to decrease the size and then keep this keyframe at the beginning of the layer. Now add the opposite graph, which will be something like this. So this is how the effect will look after adding the zoom transition. Now we have to add a pinch effect to the first clip. So select the first layer and go to effects. Here inside distortion and warp you can find the pinch and bulge effect. Add that to the clip. Now open the settings of the effect. Here you have to increase the radius to around 0.9. Then select strength and change the strength to 0. Then add a keyframe at the center. Now go to the right side and here add one more keyframe. Now here you have to decrease the strength. Now move this keyframe to the right side to the end of the layer and add this kind of graph between the keyframes. Now only one more thing is left. We have to add the circular ripple effect to the second clip, and I've already showed you how to add that in the previous transition. So I'll just fast forward it, and that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. If you face any problem you can join my Discord server, and there are so many editors who can help you. So see you in the next video.